always makes you as a coach a little bit nervous for a lot of reasons. You know, number one, you can get a little bit spirited, and you're always worried about player safety. But I thought we did a good job of competing hard, playing right on the edge, and not taking it too far. Ben Wysocki did get hurt. We don't know the extent of it yet, but it is an ankle injury. They're evaluating it now. It was a good day at work. You know, I mean, they've learned how to practice with intensity. They've learned how to practice with passion, and still take care of each other. So I appreciate that. And I think that's how you get better as a football team, because you get good, tough, hard, competitive work in. You guys aren't getting hurt all over the field. So that was a good practice.
Darren Andrews, I don't think we had a chance to ask you about him.
He had his knee checked out yesterday. They did a little scope, and I haven't heard the results of it yet. So we'll find out shortly.
Does that pretty much rule him out for the rest of spring?
Probably. I would be very surprised if it didn't. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure. And then the update on Malcolm Bunch is all positive. Yesterday afternoon late, I think they got the admittance thing all handled. You know, some of his paperwork came in late, and so, I mean, there's a process you have to go through. I mean, there's nothing that's wrong. There's no issues. There's nothing that's going to, turn the tide. It's just getting the paperwork done and everything processed. I thought that there's a chance that he'd be able to go through practice this morning, but we couldn't get it done. So he should be out here Monday. And then I think he'll have to acclimatize or acclimate or whatever they say for 2 days. So
no pads.
No pads, yeah. It doesn't even look like he needs pads, though.
No.
Really impressed so far with the way our offensive line is performing. You know, in particular, Caleb and Powasi. Those guys have stood out to me. Caleb, just a grown man, looks great. Powasi, his athleticism shows. You know, he's put on a lot of good weight. He's got really good feet. I think it's great that he lines up against Oa quite often, and they work against each other, because, Oa's going to give you all he's got every play. And that's how Powasi's going to get better. And then Alex, really the offensive line has looked good. I was excited to see how Craig Lee would look out here the first day, because he's flashed. The first day of pads, he's flashed the first 2 days without pads, and he didn't look like anything different than he's looked the first 2 days, and he stood out to me. Mossy Johnson stood out to me again. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but because you probably see more of the entire practice than I do, but without looking at the film, he stood out to me. Najee stands out to me. He plays with really good leverage, and he's violent, and he finishes. So I think we're making good progress. Brett, I thought, was sharp again. I think we have to all be careful how we evaluate Brett in a spring like this, because part of what he's doing is he's experimenting. He's trying to push boundaries. So sometimes he might look like he's thrown into coverage that he wouldn't typically do. Now, you don't want it to become a habit, obviously, but you're pushing some things and trying to experiment and see where we can go with some plays. We've got some new concepts in, but I think that he's throwing the ball really well, has great command. So it's a good start, good first 3 days.
What did you decide when you're recruiting Mossy that he's going to be the receiver at the DB?
We didn't decide until probably, honestly, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, he was here, and it came. I asked him what he'd prefer, and his first answer was, really, I don't care, I just want to play. And then, it kind of gravitated from that towards, I think I'd like to try receiver first, and we kind of have I think more of a need there numbers-wise, and I think he's looked really good. I'm nervous still with him out there. Anytime I see that brace, I get a little nervous, but I think he catches the ball really well, and he looks athletic, and he looks longer than I thought he would.
Do you go back in that kind of situation? Do you go back and actually watch his high school tape and maybe make the decision where you want to start it?
We didn't. I think you could. It was just more what he wanted and necessity, and it looks to be the right decision. Just off of 3 days. He looks really athletic as a receiver. I don't know if you guys see that as well, but from what I've seen, and I'm not saying he's perfect, he's always running the right route, but when the ball comes to him, he's able to maneuver his body, and he made a really nice catch down here a couple of days ago, and his feet weren't in, but it was just a heck of a catch. So you see things like that, it gets you excited.
Zach was saying that it's been a little fast for him. He wasn't necessarily used to it, but what have you seen from him?
It was interesting. Zach came out the first day and really caught everybody's eye because of his athleticism. And then Thursday, Zach didn't feel like he'd gotten enough work in on Tuesday, so he came out here and worked on his own. I found this out after practice for an hour and a half. Hit bags, did change of direction stuff, ran sprints for an hour and a half on his own before practice. And he came out here Thursday and he was dead. He didn't look good. Today, early in practice, he looked good. And then, it's a little different. It's a little different. But you can see him catching up fast. And he's incredibly athletic. He's got length. He's got a real passion. He can bend and move laterally. He's got speed. There'll be times on film when he's just chasing a ball down. He's just chewing up the ground. And I think he's a real promising player. I think he's going to accelerate very quickly. And we're excited about it. It's all those freshmen, all those early entry guys have caught our eye. They all look good. So we just got to keep getting better.
Can you talk about your thought process when Lou left and just thinking about hiring Coach Brick as your DC?
Well, I've known Jeff for a long, long time. When I was at San Francisco as a coordinator, we drafted him. And so I just known the man for years and always had a great deal of respect for him as a person first. The day before I got fired in Seattle was, I think he retired, and I was trying to hire him. And then I got fired, and fortunately Pete kept him on.